Well, here we go, Shipmates. How's it going? Here's my Q&A video. This was going to be my 10k subscribers thank you, but that was posted before my Carl D. Bradley thing when I did that poll, and currently I'm sitting at 36,000 subscribers. So I guess this is the 10 to 40k subscriber Q&A special. So thank you very much. Don't expect too many of these. I just wanted to throw something out there real quick and then get back to my usual content. Maybe I'll do one at 100k. Who knows? Just kind of the big milestone. Don't expect these all the time. But yeah, I figured I'd sit down, answer a few questions about myself, and then, get right back to the history content. But before we get started, I have a bit of an apology to make to all of my Australian viewers. And if you're one of my Australian viewers and you've seen a lot of my content, including my video on the Yarra and the Perth, you probably know what this is about. So in those videos, I talk about a few different things, and I got some pronunciations wrong. And some people pointed it out, obviously. A thing on pronunciations. When I did my Dongfeng Zhijing video, or, the video on the Admiral Nakhimov, and so on and so forth, I kind of made a concerted effort to look up all of the proper nouns, the places, the people, and all that, plug them into Google, hear the pronunciation, get them as best as I can. A few people have noted that even with that, I messed up a few things. The reason being, well, they're foreign countries, they speak a different language. If somebody came up to me and said, hey, I live there and you pronounce that super wrong, I'd feel terrible. That's a very American thing to do. So I did my due diligence for those. With the Yarra video and the Perth video, I didn't do that. For some reason, in my mind, I went, well, we're both English-speaking countries, for the most part. And I've been to Australia, so it'll be easy. It'll be easy, he says. Well, I butchered it, and that was my bad. It's particularly embarrassing because a little tidbit about me, before I was in the Coast Guard and all that, I actually worked with birds. I took care of wild animals, mainly birds, at an animal sanctuary, and 2 of those were kookaburras, which apparently I mispronounced, so that's a bit embarrassing for me. But just know, from now on, every proper noun, everything, excluding, obviously, stuff in the United States that I know. I will plug it into Google. I will work on my pronunciation. If I don't get it 100% spot on, forgive me. I am very, very American. So I hope you all understand. So just, if I get it wrong, just let me know in the comments. We'll both learn something, and that's what this channel's for, is to learn things. Okay, so let's get right into it. I got a bunch of questions, hundreds of questions, on all of my platforms. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, all that. So this first one comes from YouTube. It's from some dude 64. Assuming a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, what's your go-to method for making a paper airplane? Does it start with a hamburger widthwise or hot dog lengthwise fold? Boy, these are some quality comments. Well, some dude 64. I wouldn't make a paper airplane. I don't know anything about airplanes. I would make a paper boat. Come on. Easy. He says, also a follow-up, thoughts on Crocs as boat shoes. Don't even wear Crocs as normal shoes. Those are gross. I hate Crocs. So tacky. Next one. This is another one from YouTube, from a user named Gecko. Hello, new subscriber with a bit of a morbid question. Do you find researching incidents becomes depressing over time? Some of the stuff you featured can't be great to work on for extended periods of time. Yes and no. Certain topics, there's topics that I've looked into, and I said I'm not doing a video on this. And one of them that comes to mind actually was very recent, and I started looking into it and realized just how recent it was. We're talking like early, like even more recent than the Dongfeng Zhijing. like 2018. And I looked into it and I said, it was in the United States, and I said, what if I put this up and, one of the survivors' parents talks to me? Because a few involved were children. I get a comment on my YouTube saying, how dare you, talk about my lost family. And that kind of struck me as pretty tough. So in the future, I don't know if I'll be doing anything very, very recent. So that's kind of something that I'm kind of going to tread lightly on. I'm not disrespectful in my videos. I try to lay down everything as fact. I don't try to make conjecture or anything, but at the same time, I don't know. If I had someone that was a survivor of something, or someone's parent contact me and say, hey, you shouldn't have done that, I would feel terrible. As far as depressing, a few of them, yeah, that's kind of why I have my Superstitious Sailor videos, is kind of just break up the constant talk of death and all that, because it does get depressing. So I throw those in there as kind of like a palate cleanser every once in a while. On top of that, though, I was recently reading about the whale ship Essex, which, if you don't know, that is, it's basically what Moby Dick is based on. And it's way worse than Moby Dick, the true story. It's pretty horrific. But I'll sit there and I'll read about this for long hours, and then just get stuck in that ship with them, get stuck in those lifeboats thinking, God, what a terrible incident. And then as soon as I stop reading, I'm like, oh, well, that I'm here in my life. My life is pretty good, everything's not too bad. So it's kind of the opposite of using books as an escape, people hopping into fantasy books and reading them to get out of their normal life. I guess I hop into these horror books, these true life events, and get sucked into this horrible world that I'm not a part of. And then as soon as I get out, I go, oh, well, thank God. It's like having a nightmare and waking up. You're like, oh, thank God that's not real. Or it is real, but I'm not part of that. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but yes and no. It can be depressing at times, but I do enjoy researching and all that, and seeing all these terrible events, it kind of puts everything into perspective, and you kind of see, okay, my life could be a lot worse, So yes and no. Good question, though. Next question, another YouTube. This one comes from Edvard Trinis on YouTube. Do you like transportation in general, like planes and trains, not just ships? No. The long and short of it, no. I really don't have any interest in planes. I still get a lot of complaints on my HMAS Perth video, where I called it a submarine walrus float plane when it was a supermarine walrus float plane. Planes are kind of just magic to me. I don't understand them, and I don't claim to try. And trains, I just get stuck behind trains on the way to work, so I don't like them. So transportation in general, not really. No, I like ships because I've worked on ships and I know ships, and everything else is just mid-Atlantic Egyptian to me. So, so no. Good question, though. Next one is another one from YouTube. This one's Film Connor asking, have you considered covering an incident that involves aliens? And if so, do we actually have to wait till October for the Creepster to tell it? No, I will not talk about aliens. Do I think aliens exist? Sure. Do I think they have any involvement in the transportation industry or shipping? No, not at all. Do I think any incidents were caused by aliens? No, not at all. The whole point of my October was talking about conspiracy theories and ghost ships and why they're not true. The Creepster was supposed to be the antithesis of me. He was believing in conspiracy theories and talking about aliens and believing in all that. I don't believe any of that. I mean, I dredged up a lot of conspiracy theorist wackos with those 4 videos, and I think maybe people think that's what this channel is about, but no, I don't like digging through those because it's tons and tons of digging through just crap to find little nuggets of fact. I like going into, a disaster story and finding all the facts, gathering them up, and presenting them. I don't want to dig through what might be fact and what might be fake, and everything to do with aliens is shrouded with fake crap and nuggets of fact, and I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to tell you history. I'm not here to go, it was aliens. Put that really old meme up that has been around since 2008, 2009. Yeah. Next question. This one also comes from YouTube, from Lee Gaiman. Love your stuff, mate. What YouTubers do you watch? Oh, I actually have a few different YouTubers I watch. I get into different moods. When I'm feeling about history and all that, I'll watch Drashinafel, who is a fantastic World War I and World War II Navy historian. When I'm feeling into historical video games and all that, I'll watch The Mighty Jingles, who is fantastic, lovely voice. A lot of British YouTubers I've noticed. And then, when I'm feeling just watching something silly or whatever, some silly gaming and all that, I'll watch Oni Plays, because he's a funny boy, and I'm a funny boy when I'm not doing history stuff. So there you go. That's my YouTubers. Another one from YouTube, Aquina, someone I should look up the pronunciation for. If I remember correctly, you are/were in the Coast Guard. Tell us about it, what it's like, and what you needed to do to become part of it. Also, any particularly interesting things that happened to you while serving. Okay, so this story goes back to late 2000s, early 2010s. Right around the market crash and the housing crisis in the United States. Living on the West Coast in California, I had a lot of trouble finding a job out of high school. Not a lot of prospects for a young lad with no college education and no work experience. So I kicked around with some fun, low-paying part-time jobs. I was a ski instructor. I trained birds of prey. I did a lot of crazy stuff that sounds fun to tell in a bar, but really doesn't help you in the long run. Well, about the time I was walking to McDonald's to pick up a job application, I decided, let's try for something else. So I went to the Army. I went to the U.S. Army's recruiting center, talked to a fantastic staff sergeant. He told me he couldn't really tell me what job I could do until I took the ASVAB, or the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. That was kind of a test. I think it's standard now for American high school students that you have to take the ASVAB, but back then it was optional. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll take the ASVAB, see what I qualify for, and kind of narrow it down to a few jobs that I might want to do in the Army. So I go down, take the ASVAB. I wasn't great in school. I was kind of a procrastinator, but one thing I was really good at was taking tests. I could not study a subject, just sit there and listen in class, and then sit down and take a test and ace it. So I sit down, take the test, and I get an 87, which is not incredible, but it's not a dum-dum. It's out of 99, so it was pretty good. The next person closest to me taking the test with the Army got a 50, and they were over the moon. So I tell the recruiter this, and he freaks out. He goes, oh, wow, there's so many things you can do in the Army. And I say, really? So I go, okay, well, maybe I'll shop around a bit. So I go out and I talk to different recruiters and everything, and wasn't wowed by all the other recruiters. Talked to the Air Force, talked to the Marines, the Navy, and all that. So I wasn't wowed by all of them, and finally I talked to the Air Force, and they were saying, like, oh, well, what do you do in your free time? And I say, well, I used to be in theater and all that, had fun doing all that. And they say, oh, well, you can be a reporter on AFN, or Armed Forces Network. And I was like, maybe. I guess, I don't know. That sounds kind of cool. Finally, my mom says, oh, well, why don't you talk to your cousin who is in the Coast Guard? I was like, oh, yeah, those guys, that other branch. So I go and talk to the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard goes through phases where they get a bunch of people coming into basic, they fill up a whole few classes, and then they don't need anybody. And then they go through phases where they can't fill a class at all, and they're struggling to recruit, and they do everything they can. Well, I was coming in one of those times when they had plenty of people. So I walk in, and the petty officer that was doing the recruiting straight up tells me, I don't need you. You're probably not going to get in. And I say, oh, okay, wow. And then he says, tell me why I need you. And I say, okay, well, I got an 87 on the ASVAB. And he goes, okay, well, I guess we can talk. So I get to talking to him, and sign up with the Coast Guard a few months after that, because it sounded nice. I was going to be in the United States helping American citizens and all that. I wasn't too likely to go overseas and all that. And in the military, you can help American citizens on American soil, but it's less likely in other branches unless you join like the National Guard or Air National Guard or any of that. The Coast Guard, which is its own branch, it's not like the National Guard or any of that. They're on American soil, helping American citizens save American lives and protecting our borders. And that kind of just stuck with me. I kind of like the idea of being in the military, but also helping people out, which you can do in other branches, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot less specific as opposed to the Coast Guard. So that really stuck with me. I went to Cape May, New Jersey, did my 8 weeks there of basic training, getting my little brain reprogrammed from a little civilian boy to a good military robot. Not really. They do a good job just training you. And then my first station was up in Kodiak, Alaska, on the Coast Guard cutter Alex Haley. And the rest is history. I had a fun, wonderful time up in Alaska. My whole career, I just really enjoyed it. I did a lot of good, and I helped a lot of people, and I love doing it. So that's kind of why that got my start into ships and all that, and doing all that sort of thing. The second part of this question, another person asks, and they said, what made you join the Coast Guard over the Navy? And yeah, basically, I liked the fact that I could be within the United States helping American citizens and all that, and I felt like I did a lot of good doing that instead of joining a different branch. This came from Stanley on Twitter, and they also said, I had an uncle die on board the USS Ingram D-444 that sank during World War II due to a collision with an Allied ship in heavy fog with only 11 survivors. I think it would be interesting to see how those accidents happen. Thank you, Stanley. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. Also, a lot of the questions I got were just suggestions for videos. And I do look into most of those and see if they're on my list or not, or if they would be suitable for a video. So I get a lot of these suggestions, and they're great. I look into all of them. If they're not on my list and they sound suitable, I'll put them on my list. A thing to say about this list, it's big. It's pretty extensive. If I were to do a video a week, I wouldn't run out of content for 3 years with just the list how it is now. There's over 170 ships on there. So if you're putting in suggestions and all that for ships to do, I appreciate it. Just understand, I probably won't respond to the comment, and it's probably on the list already. But all the same, thank you very much. I appreciate the suggestions, and I'll keep looking into it. All right, the next one comes from Michael Schmidt on Facebook. Said, you should do a video on the Moby Prince. Another suggestion, which I appreciate it. It's on the list. What was the first incident that you heard of that made you want to make a video on it? And that would actually be the first video that I ever did, the SS Princess Sophia. We were transiting down the Inside Passage in Canada, going from Alaska down to the Straits of Juan de Fuca outside Washington. And I was up on QMO, or Quartermaster of the Watch, up on the bridge looking at the charts. And I remember looking at a wreck marker on Vanderbilt Reef. And I remember just, for some reason, I thought, how did that happen? Like, how did a ship run into that? What's the story on that ship? How long has it been there and all that? So I looked up Vanderbilt Reef. I saw information about the Princess Sophia, and I just looked into it and I read all about the story, and I said, wow, that's incredible. What an interesting story. And, you know, how many people actually know about this? So I looked into it and I read about it, and this was back in 2012 or 2013, and just was fascinated by the story and went, wow, you know, that would be a cool, like, movie or book or something. So yeah, I just kind of sat on that information. It wasn't until this past year where I went, you know what? I need something to get through the sickness, you know, get through the sort of quarantine time. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll try my hand in YouTube, and didn't think anything would ever come of it. Just thought I would put out some cool stories. So yeah, anyways, I started the channel to try to kind of pass the time and all that, and I never thought it would be anything more than a few hundred views with 20 subscribers, one of them being my mom and all that, and well, here we are. My mom is a subscriber, and she's fantastic. I love her. There's another one from Brian on YouTube. It says, in your opinion, what do you believe is the scariest track of open water in the world, and why? Well, I haven't been to every track of open water in the world. And of course, I got a lot of folks from the Great Lakes that would say the Great Lakes. And I would agree. They're probably a very close second. But the waters that I think, at least that I have sailed on, are the scariest is absolutely the Bering Sea, which, you know, I spent a good time on the Bering Sea. The worst seas that I've ever seen were on the Bering Sea in winter. We're talking 45 footers with 70 to 80 knot winds. So I would say the Bering Sea. I know I'm going to get some angry Europeans or something, or maybe people that have sailed around the Cape Good Hope or Cape Horn, but yeah, I'm just saying the Bering Sea in my limited experience. Good question though, thank you. This one actually comes from the Discord, and we'll talk about that soon. This is from channel artist Spall. You might know her work. Do you think you'll ever do YouTube full-time and quit your job? No. And I don't know. Just thinking about doing YouTube full-time, I don't know if I would feel fulfilled doing that. I like teaching about all of this and helping people learn new things, but I don't know. I just don't think I would be fulfilled sitting at home making YouTube videos. I like being out on the water. I like sailing and all that. I love going out to sea. So making YouTube videos as my job, I can't really see me ever doing that. It's definitely turning out to be pretty profitable and all that, but I just can't see myself not being on a boat. So doing YouTube full-time, no. And also, I don't ever know if maybe one day this channel will just stop being as popular as it is now, and I'll just be left high and dry and all that. So full-time YouTuber, probably not. Continue making these videos for you, definitely for the foreseeable future. So don't worry about that. This one is another one from YouTube, Vincente Partido. Random one, but do you have a favorite ship? As in, is there one you like researching more than others, or one that just sticks out to you? For example, my favorite ship is the USS New Mexico, BB-40, which is awesome ship. Cheap, predictable answer would be the Coast Guard cutter Alex Haley, just because I served on her. But if I had to make a decision on one that I haven't served on, would probably be, surprisingly enough, either the HMS Nelson, because I just think she's a super cool design, and just a really neat looking ship from an era where, I mean, you didn't really see that kind of design too much. I thought she was really cool, and I would have loved to seen her in her lifetime. Either that or the USS Massachusetts, who is still around today, an awesome World War II battleship with a very cool and rich history. Between those two, definitely. And we'll go with one more, just because this is going a little long. My throat's getting tired, and I'm kind of rambling at this point. This is from Manic Mechanic on YouTube. He says, what do we do with a drunken sailor? And, well, you plop them down with some water and sit them in front of the computer and make them watch some maritime horrors. So with that, that's all my questions. We're going to go to a few announcements and all that. So as you may have noticed, I've set up a Discord. The link for that's going to be in the description, as well as my About section. Join up. You'll be able to talk to me there. You'll be able to talk to other fans, kind of build a fun little community. I think it's pretty cool. It took me a lot to put together, and I think it'll be a great way to just mingle and talk with each other. Also, I've had a few people request a Patreon, and at first I was a bit hesitant because, I'll be honest, I'm not hurting financially. I have a full-time paying job, and now I'm making revenue from YouTube, so I'm doing all right. But upon further thought, I decided to go ahead and set it up because I think it would be a good way for people to interact with me and kind of have a hand in deciding what videos I actually do. We set up a fun little channel on the Discord and everything for patrons, and the way I kind of reconciled doing it is I only have 2 tiers, $1 and $5, and 50% of everything that's donated to me, I've decided to donate in turn to the Gary Sinise Foundation. If you know anything about the Gary Sinise Foundation, it is fantastic. It's agreed to be one of the best charities to donate to. They have barely any overhead cost. Almost everything that's donated to them goes to helping veterans in need, first responders, and very recently, over the past year or so, frontline medical workers. The Gary Sinise Foundation is awesome. When I was in Kodiak, Alaska, he came and did a concert at our base, and it was just super cool. The guy is awesome. He does great things for veterans, as well as other people, and I thought it would be a good cause. So yeah, all of the donations that I get, be it Patreon or Super Chat, 50% of those are going to go to the Gary Sinise Foundation. So if you want to donate, that's awesome. I'll definitely mention you in the next video, and you'll get a chance to kind of have a hand in deciding what videos I do next, and it'll go to a good cause. So if you have the means and you want to donate, definitely do it. If you don't. You're an adult. It's your money. With that being said, the donations from the last Carl D. Bradley video, Mark Henry with $10. Thank you so much, Shipmate. Sultan Music Videos with $5. Gary Marks with $2. And Batgoat with $5. So thank you all so much. We made $22, so that's $11 going to the Gary Sinise Foundation. I'm not asking you guys for money. I don't need it. I'm not asking you to subscribe or like my videos. It's all completely on you. I'm here to teach you guys about history. I'm not here to make money. So do what you want to do. You're adults, and everything that you do is awesome, and I appreciate it. We're all shipmates here, and I appreciate every single one of you. So join up on the Discord or don't. Donate to the Patreon or don't. You don't even have to subscribe. But anything you do, I appreciate it. So fair winds and following seas to you, shipmates.